Alright, the retro reviews are back. We got a new Alien movie coming out. I'm wearing an Alien t-shirt, and I think for the occasion, it's more than appropriate to finish off the Alien series. I've already reviewed Alien and Aliens, the two movies that everyone loves. So let's talk about the two bastard sequels that nobody loves, and that little spin-off that came out 5 years ago that everyone seems to like. Alien 3 came out in 1992 and is the directorial debut of David Fincher, the same guy who'd eventually go on to do Seven, Fight Club, The Social Network, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, and Gone Girl. The movie takes place sometime after Aliens, where Ripley, Newt, Hicks, and half of Bishop are the only survivors. However, a facehugger is seen crawling through the ship and causes it to crash land. Ripley is the only survivor, and the crash kills Bishop, Hicks, and even Newt on impact. Way to go ahead and say fuck you to everyone who loved Aliens. Ripley is at her lowest point. She's the only woman on this prison planet, and the one character that she looked after in the last movie, Newt, is dead. So she starts to suspect that another alien is on the loose. And she wants to check Newt to see if she's been impregnated, and she's not, but before you know it, her suspicions are correct, and there's an alien running loose through the prison facilities. Alien 3 was a movie that, after watching Aliens, I've always wanted to avoid, this and Alien Resurrection, because before seeing any of these movies, I've heard so many things back and forth. The first two movies are amazing, the last two movies are dreadful. So I went in with like the lowest of expectations with Alien 3, but I wanted to try to stay positive. And when I first saw it, I didn't like it. And then when I saw it again in prep for this review, my opinion just remains the same. This is a dreadful sequel, one that really doesn't need to exist. The Alien series goes down the same path as the Terminator series. When I reviewed Terminator 3 2 years ago, I said that Terminator 2 ended in a way where there could never be a sequel, and Aliens does the same thing. So the only way Alien 3 could even exist is if they basically cheat a bit just so a third movie can happen. And in this case, it's having a facehugger appear throughout the ship that Ripley and the other characters are in. Which begs the question, did the alien queen lay one last egg on the ship before she fought Ripley and got sucked into the vacuum of space? Because if you recall in Aliens, Ripley destroyed the long tube that the queen uses to actually lay the eggs. So there would be no way she could just lay an egg just in that quick amount of time without anybody noticing. So the opening of the movie and how they cheat to pretty much make this movie is frustrating. It's an opening that's so insulting and so anger-inducing that it's kind of hard to continue watching the movie from there because you just want to tell this movie to burn in hell right away. I will say though, the rest of the movie, and this is not really a compliment, is not anger-inducing. It just ranges from bad to stupid to depressing as fuck. This movie is like The Dark Knight Rises and Batman vs. Superman, where it's so dark, it's so dour, it's so depressing that it's really hard to find any enjoyment with it. And I do kind of get the tone that they're trying to go. It's trying to be different from the first two movies, which I commend them for in a way. But god damn, this is a science fiction movie. You gotta have at least some element of fun in the movie. Don't make a movie that makes me want to just take a gun and blow my brains out. That's how depressing this shit is. For me personally, the hardest scene to watch is when an alien chestburster basically comes out of a dog. The alien in this movie impregnates a dog, and the scene when the chestburster bursts out of the dog is hard to watch because as someone who loves dogs, it's just personally really difficult to hear a dog crying. It was just really I don't know. There's really no other way to put it. It's horrible to watch. Now let's talk about the alien itself. There's only one alien in this movie this time around, so they're trying to make it, in that aspect, a lot like the first movie, where it's supposed to be a horror movie, as well as a depressing as shit drama. But during the opening credits, we see the facehugger crawling through the ship, and after Ripley basically regains consciousness, the movie kind of plays out as if you're supposed to be guessing if another alien's on board, and there's no suspense. We've already seen the alien crawling around through the ship. We saw the markings of the facehugger on the dog before the alien's born, and to top it all off, you don't give a shit about any of the other characters, so there's really no suspense on who's gonna die or not. There's only two people that you really care about. One is Ripley, who, I'll just say this right now, Sigourney Weaver still does a really fantastic job in the role. This is a shitty movie, but she still manages to bring her A game and deliver a solid performance. The other character that I kind of like is one of the prisoners that she befriends. He's played by Charles Dance, who would eventually go on to play Tyrion Lannister in Game of Thrones. He's the only one of these inmates that's actually kind of likable. He and Ripley do have some good chemistry, and he does have a heart, especially since Ripley is going through the lowest point in her life. So he's one guy that you go, you know what? I kind of like him. Too bad he gets killed once the alien really starts going loose. And if I could just get back to the alien, this thing just doesn't look all that good. And it's all from a visual effects perspective. When I first saw this movie, I thought it was CG, but when watching a bunch of behind the scenes stuff, and especially when rewatching this movie for this review, and really looking at how it moves, you can tell that it's a puppet, that they filmed a puppet in front of a blue screen and basically composited it into the footage of the live action actors. And it looks so out of place. You can clearly see the seams, and the way it moves is just not very convincing. This is one instance when they film something that's physically in front of the camera, and it just doesn't come across as convincing at all. I know a lot of people say that, oh, practical effects are the way to go. This is one instance where that backfires drastically, especially when you consider that back in Aliens, you just had a bunch of guys in alien suits running around, and it looked really convincing, the way the aliens moved all over the place, and that was because of clever camera tricks and editing. This movie, they clearly want to show the alien, like, in full force, like, look how glorious this thing is. Just imagine if they showed off the shark in Jaws all the time. That's what this movie is. It just never looks convincing. However, times when the alien is actually a guy in a suit, and an animatronic that's actually with the actors, it doesn't look too bad. And I do like the concept itself that this alien acts sort of dog-like, because it mainly runs around on all fours, and that's ultimately the reason why these things are called xenomorph. They morph into whichever being they were born from. But this also leads into another problem with the movie. There's another cut of it where the alien is actually born from an ox rather than a dog, which maybe if I'd seen that cut, I would have been less depressed by watching the birth scene. But this ultimately goes into the big problem with Alien 3 and its sequel, Alien Resurrection. The studio had no idea what the fuck they were doing with this movie. Unlike with Alien and Aliens, where those were director's projects, Alien 3 was a product, not project, but a product of the studio. Alien 3 and Resurrection are famous for Fox interfering with every decision that went into it, because David Fincher, when he got hired, didn't have much time to prepare, and apparently they didn't even have a finished script when they were filming. They were just like, yeah, let's just get this out quickly in time for summer. And by knowing that there exists two different movies where the alien is born from two different creatures, that only shows that Fox didn't know what they were doing, but it also seems like they didn't really care about what the scenario of this movie would be. They just wanted it out for the summer, didn't really put any thought into it. And there are a lot of other movies that have gone on since where there's a lot of studio interference, like the Amazing Spider-Man series, but Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection are the more famous ones. But getting back to Alien 3 specifically, one thing that this movie tries to allude to is some sort of religious element. Some of the characters in the prison are very religious. They look at Ripley as like Jesus Christ or something. There's a lot of Christian symbolism throughout the movie. but it's not really clear what exactly they're going for. And this is not subtext or subtle metaphor. They cram all this religious stuff down your throat. It's like, here, do you get it? Do you get it? And I'm like, no, I don't get what you guys are trying to do. Doing this, you just come across as incredibly pretentious. So the last thing I really have to talk about with Alien 3 is the ending. Because whenever Alien 3 gets brought up into a conversation, people usually say the opening of the movie is anger-inducing and insulting, but the ending is really ballsy. Because at the end of the movie, they kill the alien, but Ripley has apparently been impregnated herself, and the alien is a queen. How one facehugger managed to impregnate both Ripley and a dog is not really explained. Again, showing that Fox didn't really care. The head of Weyland-Yutani, who's played by Lance Henriksen and is supposedly the creator of the Bishop android, wants the alien, but Ripley does not trust the company. After 2 other movies, you just know not to trust them, so she ends up sacrificing herself, falling into a furnace, taking the alien chestburster with her, and basically dies. So on one hand, I do give them credit for having the balls to kill off its main character and say, okay, we're done with the Alien series. Last one, no more. We've killed off Ripley. The xenomorph aliens are extinct. It's over. But James Cameron already sequel-proofed the series with Aliens when the alien queen got sucked into the vacuum of space. And given that this movie made a bullshit reason for a third movie to happen, why would we even believe that they would sequel-proof this movie when we know that they're probably going to manufacture, make up, and cheat some sort of way to make a 4th Alien movie, which they ended up doing. So I just can't get on board with the ending. I hate it. I honestly do hate the ending because, again, while I do admire the balls they have, it's fake. Because they made up a reason for a 3rd movie to happen, it's only a matter of time before they make up some sort of reason for a 4th movie to happen, which we will get to next week. So, back to Alien 3. There's really not a whole lot to say that's good about it. I mean, I did praise Sigourney Weaver, and Charles Dance is good for the time that he's in the movie. The cinematography itself is also really beautiful. It has this gorgeous, haunting look that does add to the depressing atmosphere. I mean, I hate the depressing tone, but the cinematography is well done. I can't deny that. So, I would say that given everything that I've heard about this movie before I ended up watching it, I'm just like, wow, I kind of expected all this to happen, so don't waste your money. But the opening of the movie is just downright insulting. Like I said earlier, that's enough to just give it the burn in hell rating right now, because you take one of the best movie sequels out there, one of the best action science fiction movies ever made, and you just give every fan of that movie 2 middle fingers with that opening. Because the movie gave us the middle finger, I'm going to give this movie the middle finger and tell Alien 3 to go burn in hell. That opening seriously hurt the majority of the movie, and even though the rest of the movie is not anger-inducing, you just burn in hell, Alien 3. So, that's my review for Alien 3. Next week, we will be reviewing Alien Resurrection. Oh, man. Well, we'll see what happens next week. But until then, I hope you enjoyed this review. Leave a comment down below and tell me what your thoughts are on the movie, if and when you've seen it. And as always, this is the real Mr. Robinson telling you there's only one.